Welcome to the fastest daf in town. Today on Masechtas Sanhedrin daf Mem Aleph. We're going to begin on Mem Amid Beis, about 6 lines from the bottom by the 2 dots. So we would ask the witnesses numerous questions. Makirin atem oiso, did you recognize him? Tanabanan. Makirin atem oiso, did you recognize him? Nachri harag, Yisrael harag, whether it was a Jew or a non-Jew. Also, Hasriya Semboy, did you give Hasra? Did you warn them before? Kibul of Hasra, did he accept it? Titru Atzmo Lamisa, was he basically just muttering himself to die? So Rashi says, Shikishmatirin bo al Tavor, when you said don't violate this, Shata Tuschai Misa, you're going to end up being killed. Hu oimer al menaskin in the Yosef. Yeah, it's okay, I'm doing it. De'im lo hifgir atzu in a nerag. If he wasn't mafgir himself, then he can't be killed. He has to admit to say, I don't care, I'll die. So what? Himas b'taychadei dibor. Did he say this within the time frame of taychadei dibor? Because otherwise, if not, maybe he forgot the hasra before he did this sin. Ha'ovid avodah zara, if he worshipped idols as mi avad, or pa'or avad, or merkolos avad, which idol did he worship? Uvameh avad, bizibuach, v'kiter, v'nisach, v'shtachava. Similar to what we saw in the Gemara, in the Mishnah, exactly what was the avodah that he did? Was it burning incense? Was it a sacrifice? Was it libations or bowing? So how do we know that there's an obligation to give hasra at all? Maybe they should just be punished when they do something wrong. Person who takes his sister, baso avivo basimo, either his father's daughter or mother's daughter, v'ra es ervasa. Now it says v'ra. So atu what? B're'iyah tali milsa. What's the difference if he saw or not? The reality is that he did an avera. So what's the difference? Ella means ad shir uhu taimo shel davar, that he was able to see and understand exactly what he was doing, which means he was obviously given the punishment of what would be. Now Rashi says she erva v'hai kra gabi kares ksef. Now when it comes to the isser of a chaisai, there's an isser kares. However, im enu inyan l'kares Dahad din shamayim hu boy hasra. Obviously, even though it talks about hasra, there's no possibility. There's no hasra when it comes to kares. So it's in the kares. That's what we think about Malchus during the in the Malchus, and therefore that's how we see that there is hasra for Malchus. Okay. Chizkiah Tana, he learns from a different pasuk. So on this, Rashi says, Menaya Dinan, how do you know that he did it on purpose? It must be El Shehisrabo, that you warned him. That's how you know it was b'mezid. V'yadayin hu mezid, and he still did it. So what happened? The person who was chopping wood on Shabbos, he was killed. Shehusru boy, he was warned. V'yadayin hu mekaishesh, and he continued to chop wood. He didn't care. Debei Rabbi Yanei Tana, Debei Rabbi Tana. Pasuk says al davar asher ina. Regarding a namaharasa, it says that she was afflicted. Now it says davar. It could be al iske dibor. It was through speech, namely hasra, that this happened. No, we need all these psukim. Dikas of Rachmana Chaiso, which is really by Kares. Havamina Chavi Malchus in. That's what we said was the Indian to Malchus. Chavi Misos loy. Maybe you don't need hasra when it comes to Chavi Misos. So Kasav Rachmana Kiyazid. B'chi Kasav Rachmana Kiyazid. Havamina Hanamili Sayef. Maybe that's only when it comes to being killed by the sword. Dekil, because it's one of the lowest punishments. When it comes to skila, maybe we don't even require hasra, because the guy did something so bad that he's going to deserve skila, so we'll punish him without hasra. So that's why we need the other one. Which again is talking about the Mekaishish. So I need the 2 psukim by skila. Rav Shimon lasui nisrafin, because Rav Shimon holds sreif is more chomer. So therefore, if it's Indian for skila, so it's even for sreif. So may only mention by skila, or anything else. You don't need all these psukim. So hachanami milsi that's mekabel kaimer takvachs about kra. Okay, so it's possible that the din is that you could learn it out from one pasuk, but sometimes the pasuk goes out of its way, even though you can have derived things from mekabel kaimer. Okay, hitter atzmol misa. So one of the things we said is, he says yes? I know. I am doing it anyway. He is opening himself up to being killed even before Beis Din. So Minolan. So how do we know this? You must hames. Ad shiaser atzmol misa. Yes, you're killing the dead guy. Says Rashi, mashma kvar hu kames. It's like he's already dead. He's basically saying, yeah, that's fine. I'll die. I don't care. When it comes to witnesses over a Naya Marasa, Chuhuzmu in Aragin, even though their intention l'chayra was to kill her, they're not going to get killed if they're Edom Zayman. We actually only came to aser her to her husband, but not to kill her. So what do you mean? They must have given hasra. And the hasra would therefore be for misa. Delo asruba. We're talking about a case where maybe there was no hasra. V'ilo asruba heichem, and how could they have killed her? So be'isha chaveira. We're talking about a woman who's a scholar. That she does not need hasra. And this is the exception where she could be killed, but there's no din hazama in this case, because they can just say they only intended to aser, which is interesting. Which means the din of Edom Zaymin v'asisim lo kasher zama, what I plotted to do, which means it's kind of basar machshava in this situation. This woman will not need hasra. So this person obviously knows. Kivan di'inhu lo mekatli. Understand, if these Edom Zaymin won't be killed, so ihi heichi mekatla. How do we kill her? It's not considered to be a testimony. Hachinami kaimer. You're right. So it's interesting, when it comes to a woman who is a chacham, she can actually get out of being killed, and also because the Edom can do this. Fine. Elo be'isha chavera the kaimulan the miktala. How do we find a situation where Shitaka could be killed? Because you would think that it should include that, but if she doesn't need hasra, and therefore there's no hasra, so therefore the Edom could always say I was just to ask her to her husband, so then she's not going to get killed. So, but how do we apply this then? Kishezinsa v'chazav zinsa, says Rashi. The hanach edis nos sheni ein yichol loimer la sura banu shahari kfar nesrum is nos harishain roba el hargai. So let's say she was already mazan the first time, and she was ushered to her husband, then she's mazan a second time. Obviously, that edus can't say is in order to usher her to her husband, because she was already ushered to her husband, must be for hariga. Shani banu. We want to answer her to the boil. Shazinsa boil rishain. That she was mazana from the same guy. Inami shazinsa mikroy veha. She was mazana with a relative, and therefore you don't need to say, oh, it was to answer her, because we already know she was already usher because of an ereva from before. So Maishna Nar Hamarasa de Nakat, Filu Nasuanami. Why do we have to mention it's an Arison, even if she's married, but she's a Chaver? In Elafilu Hai de Lo Yasva Tute, even this person, they were not together, Surah Al Baila Banu. So this kind of makes sense by Nisuin because they were together intimately. So maybe you wouldn't think that this is a valid taina by Naira and Rasa. Yes, it is. Okay, let's look at question 13. Chavera Mikdala, how could she be possibly killed? So he said, Mishkachasel bezinsa v'chaz v'zinsa, ma'oiso boil, oy mikroy v'ha. Okay, so that is the correct answer. Beautiful. And here's a great question we actually just did. Menalan de'ein neherig bebeisdin ad shiater atzmel misa. So he said, way up here. Oh, is this also question 12? But I skipped question 12. Maybe I didn't do question 12. Yeah, it's the exact same question. TB 20. This is based on the pasuk kosav hemus ameis. The hemus ameis who mater atzmo hamiso achshav. Okay. All right. Fine. Let's keep on going. All right. Rav Chisda. Echad Amar B'Sayif Harguv. One person says he got killed by a sword. V'echad Omer B'Achari. In Hargu is like some type of an axe, some different type of a weapon. Hargu Ein Zed Nachain. That's not good. That's considered to be like contradictory testimony in the thing itself. Echad Omer Kalev Shchayer V'echad Omer Kalev Avanim. They argue about the color of their clothes. Hargu Zed Nachain. That's not a major aspect of the edus, and therefore it's not going to be a problem. Okay, fine. It says Rashi, "Deloy shaykh bedikas lahachish el begufa shel edus meisvei nachain she'ein nachain echad omer b'sayif hargu v'echad omer baririn hargu." Echad Omer Kalev Shecharim v'Echad Omer Kalev Lavanim Ein Ze Nachin. So we see that they're the same. That even when a person's arguing about the color of the clothes, that's also not good. So Tigam Rav Chisda Basuda Shechanku Boy Dahainu Sayif V'Aririn. We're talking about not the shirt, but we're talking about like some type of weapon, like a rope, the color of the rope or the handkerchief that was used to strangle this person. So that is the ikra of the edus. This is gufishal edus. Tashma. Echad Omer sandal of shchayim v'echad Omer sandal of levanim. They're arguing about the color of the guy's shoes. Ein ze nachain. So asanami kigayin shebayit bal b'sandalai b'hargus, because he was kicking him with a shoe until he killed him. He kicked him to death. So it's like a weapon. Tashma Masa Ubadak Ben Zaki Kutsi Ta'ina. What was exactly going on? He was examining these figs, the fig tree. Was it a fat fig or is it a thin one? Summary. Rami Barchama Kagain She'akatz Ta'ina B'Shabbos. That he broke off a fig on Shabbos. The Alakam Katel, and because of this, that's Gufa Shaladis, because he was going to be killed based on the plucking of that very fig. It's talking about murder. It's not about Shabbos. That he poked him with a stick of the te'ena of this tree. Tashma wouldn't killed him that way. Tashma Omerhen te'enazu ukseha dakin ukseha gasin. There it's ukatz. Its stem is thin or fat. Te'enim shechayrim te'enim levanais. The figs are black, the figs are white, so you can't kill with this. Can't kill with this. So what exactly is he talking about? It's talking about the the pit or the stem or something, which obviously is not talking about killing, right? You can't kill someone that way. Rabbi Yosef, Ben Zakkai loisev inish. So from Ben Zakkai, this question was asked. Shani Ben Zakkai the bedikas kachakiros mishavila. You're asking this question on him. He holds bedikas like chakiros. Says Rashi. Lived like b'choyol asher yuchol kedil hachash. He used to ask tons of questions just to contradict him. Kehechi to b'chakiros mischachshi b'davar acher. Just like when it comes to chakiros, when it comes to contradicting, ze'oimer b'makam ploinim ze'oimer b'makam ploinim in different locations. Dainu davar acher to b'makam lohargu hachinami b'dikos. So he was of the opinion that this was also enough that the person would not be killed if you did not mention the consistency between these two testimonies. Okay, so Man ben Zakkai, who is this? Ilema Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai, Mi Havi b'Sanhedrin. I don't know. He was the part of a Sanhedrin, so how could he be the person, right? That at this time, well, there was no din nefashos in his time. The Osanya Kol Shneses Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai, Ramei V'Asim Shana, 120 years. Arboyim Shana Asik b'Perak Matya. He worked in business for 40 years. Mem Shana Lomad, he worked for 40 years. Arboyim Shana Limed, he taught. V'Tano Arboyim Shana Kaidim Churban Abayis. The 40 years before the Churban Abayis, Galta Sanhedrin. The Sanhedrin was already in exile. Yashvula b'Chanus, and they were literally in like a store. Yom Rav Yitzchak bar Abdoimi, Loimer Sholidonu Dini Kanasos. They didn't do Dini Kanasos. Dini Kanasos Akadach El Sholidonu Dini Nefashos. But Tanan Meshachar Beis Hamikdash Hiskin Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai. So Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai could not possibly have been the one that we're talking about because he was not involved in learning and teaching at that point, and there was no Din Nefashos anymore. So Elwa, it must be Ben Zakkai de Alman, so some other Ben Zakkai. So Hachinam Estabed Yisrael Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai, Carly Rav Ben Zakkai. You're just going to call him Ben Zakkai? It doesn't sound very appropriate. It actually says his name. Elwa Talmud HaYoshlef Ne Rabohavi. He was actually a student that was sitting in front of his teacher. Yarmer Milsa, he said a matter. Mustaber Taime, and he understood this logical reason as we continue to Mem Aleph Amud Beis. V'kava b'shmei, and he said in his name, Kihavi Lomad Ben Zakkai. So they can say there was Ben Zakkai that basically taught this. Havi Karle Talmud HaYoshlef Ne Rabbi. We called him, it was like a student sitting in front of his teacher. Ki Havi Liman, when he was teaching, Havi Karle Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai. Ki Karle Ben Zakkai al Shem Demiyakara, on how he was originally. Ki Karle Rav Yochanan ben Zakkai al Shem Dehashta. That's his name now. Okay. Fine. Maase ubadak v'chulu ma ben chakiras chulu. So my afilu shnayim oimrim, even if two will say pshita. Ki omer echad en yodeh. If one person says I don't know, edus in kayemes. Ki omer beitrein nam edus in kayemes. So of course the testimony is going to be good. So Rav Sheshis aresha. This statement is going on the chakiras skoy. Even if two people say I know, the echad omer ein yodeh, and a third aid says I don't know, edus in betela. Command could be kiva. That even though two is enough, so the fact is, three are just the same. So if a third guy comes along and he says, I don't know, that's going to be mavatal all this whole kat. Says Rashi, Masechtas Makas, Mashnaim Enim Zaymin, Av Shiiz Mushnehem, Av Shaloshdan, Av Shiiz Mushloshdan. I think we mazam all of them. Omer Rav, V'haydus and Kayemas Katani, it says it is good. Omer Rav HaKamer, Afilu B'chakiros. Even when it comes to the Chakir, Shnaim Omer Yadanu, if two people say no, V'echad Ameni Odei, Haydus and Kayemas, it will be good. Come on, the like Rabbi Kiva, not like the sheet of Rabbi Kiva. Who, again, Rabbi Kiva connects 2 to 3, and here he's saying no. Rav Kahana, Rav Safra, Tanu, Sanhedrin. So they were learning Masechta Sanhedrin, like we are. Bei Rabba, in the house of Rabba, Pagbahu, Rabbi Bar Chama. So Rabbi Bar Chama encountered him. Omrulhu, Mam Risu B'Sanhedrin Bei Rabba. What do you say regarding the Sanhedrin Bei Rabba? So Amrilei, Umayim Rinan Ba B'Sanhedrin Gredasa. What is there to say about a regular Sanhedrin? Umay Kashlach. What is the question to you? Amrilei Maha Dekatani Mabein Chakiros Abadikais. The distinction between Chakiros and Badikais. Chakiros Echad Amr Eni Odea do some Batelo Badikais Amr Echad Eni Odea V'Afil Shnayim Amr in Anu Yoidim. If the two bills they don't know, they do some Kayamas, it will work. So they understand. Either Edi Deraisahi. When it comes to Chakiros, when it comes to Terishais, they're both Minatayra. So Ma'ishna Chakiros, Ma'ishna Badikos. Why are the halachos so different between the two? So Amalei, Haki Hashta, but Chakiros, when it comes to Chakira, Omer Echad Eni Odea do some Batelo. Because then they say, oh, where did it take place? I don't know. What was the date? I don't know. So that's Eidos. The Havil Eidos Shiatechal Hazima. It's Eidos that you can't be Mazimin. So therefore, you have to be able to answer all the Chakiros. And therefore, if you don't answer the Chakiros, the whole thing gets thrown out. And that's the reason why, when it comes to Chakiros, if one says, I don't know, then the whole thing is thrown out. It isn't Batela. But Dikois, Omer Echad Mehaneni Odei, Dusin Kiyamas, why? Because you can still be Mazim them, because they still, when it comes to, again, the questions of Bedikos, these are questions of like, what color was this guy's shirt? What was going on, right? These are not necessarily things that pertain specifically to, it did not pertain to time or place. So therefore, this person could still be Mazim these Adam. Armlahu Yihachi Amrisuba Tuva Amrisuba. You're saying a lot. That is what you were saying. You're saying a lot. So Amrulei Mitivuse Damar, from your kindness, Amrina Batuva, you said a lot. Minazi say Damar, from the sternness of you, Lo Amrisa Ba V'Loi Chada. No one says anything. Says Rashi, Mach Mashiata Toiv Anav, since you're good and an Anav, Umaydalanu Anu Imrim Bahar, we speak a lot. But if you were tough to us, then we're not going to want to speak. Okay, that's the idea. Question 14. Shleish Edim V'Omer Echad Mehem En Yodea Be'echad Mezayin Chakiros B'Matoi Hanidan Im Batei Dusanoi Lo. So it's telling the Machlokas, are we Makash Nam L'Shleisha? As we say in the Rashi, with Rabbi Kiva and B'Saktas Mako. So Inyan Zed B'Inam B'Shleisha Shezumu Kulon Kamo Mishnayim. Do you have to be Mazam all three Edim, or just two of them? Rabbi Kiva, the boy, she's Mukulam, had to be Mazam all three. They're all linked. So Bato Kol Ha'edus Shiyatachol Hazim B'Mnei Hashlishi. So therefore, if one says En Yodea, then you can't be Mazim him. So therefore, because of that, it doesn't work. Echad Oimer Hu. So Ad Kam. So the Mishnah on Mem Amud Aleph said like this. Okay, this is like half of the Amud, so I'm not sure where we're going to go with this. But okay, so again, if one doesn't know, you have to keep adding more, two more. So Amrav Ach, so Ad Kama says Rashi, Ad Kama Yichnu Pesach Hachadash. Im yesh benehem yom echad name the to beibur chaydish. So we said that maybe when you make a mistake with 1 hour and all this. So Kamas Rav Achbar Chanina Rav Yosi Rav Yochanan ad ruba shel chaydish, until the majority of the month. Says Rashi. Once it's the 20th or 21st, Lotlin beibur chaydish. The kfar shama b'yomim halol shahayich chadash meuber. So, if a person is a machlok, if the two Adam, one says it was the second of the Nisan, one says the third of Nisan, so there it's shaykh that they could make that mistake. But once 20 days have gone by, you should already know what month it is. And therefore, once the roiv of the month goes by, the fact that they say 2 different days, that's already problematic. Why does it use these words, the third and the fifth? Yomai nema shezeh yodua b'shnei iburin v'zeh ein yodea b'shnei iburin. Let's say it was a couple of months go by, and you don't know if the past few months was a chaser mole, right? So why don't you just say it that way? Elah mishum dibaruba yada. Must be because you know by then, right? So you can't say, oh yeah, 2 days, because I didn't know the month before and the month before and the month before. No. So therefore, that's a proof. No. Maybe after the majority of the month, he also doesn't know. However, ube shipura yada, says Rashi, shofar hayu toikin b'kiddush hachodesh. They would blow the shofar, b'yoyim shehu maskil, hein mole hein chaser, b'zelu shamas hashofar. This guy maybe just didn't hear the shofar. B'chad shipura amridato. So we say with regard to one shofar, maybe he made a mistake. He couldn't hear it. But trei shipura lo omar detoy, not 2. The Amar Rav Acha Bar Chanina Omer Rav Asi Amar Rav Yochanan Ad Kam Mavarchen Al Chodesh. How long are we mavarech the Chodesh? Says Rashi, Im lo birach hayoim yivarach hamachar. You can do it the next day. Ad shismoli pigimasa, until the cavity of the moon is completed. The Kama, when is that? So Amar Rav Yaakov Bar Idi Amar Rav Yehuda Ad Sheva. You have until the 7th day to be able to basically to bless the moon. Now, Doi Omer Ad Shish Aser. You actually have all the way until the 16th, after it's no longer a full moon. Now it's already going. It's getting smaller again. At that point already, it's too late. But Tirvayu, as we continue to Mem Beis Amud Aleph, Rabbi Yochanan Svirle, they hold like Lahu. They hold like Rabbi Yochanan. Ha Lamahavi Ki Yatra. One is like a string of a bow. Ha Lamahavi Ki Nafya. One is like a sieve. The whole circle. Armule Rav Acha Mediftu Ravina V'Levarech Hatoiv Hametiv. Why don't we say the bracha of Hatoiv Hametiv? Says Rashi. The Rabbi Yehuda Parch. Nehinami de B'Shiva Ve'elech Leikel Amar. I can understand after the 7th, according to him, you don't say anything, but nonetheless, you should still say a Teva Metiv. Says Rashi, Shekol Shah, who Metiv Lanu Be-Meliusa. It's still good that the moon is getting full. Tamid Shemoy Sefes Ha'olam. The fact that the moon is getting bigger and bigger, you can say a Teva Metiv, because now that it's a beautiful thing when the moon is getting bigger and bigger. So you should still be able to say a Teva Metiv. So our answer is Amrulei Atu what? Ki chaser, when the moon gets smaller, mi mevarchinan daina emes? We don't say baruch daina emes when the moon gets smaller. Du levarech hatova meitiv, that we should say hatova meitiv when it gets bigger. So we don't say that. So levarchinu l'tervayu. Why don't we do both? Kivan dahainu urche lo mevarchinan. Because this is the normal way that things go, says Rashi. B'chol chaydish b'rias oilam kimin hagohi. This is the normal way. The inkan din pranyos. You can't say there's some punishment, it's getting bigger or smaller, because it's something which is just part of nature. So I wrote over here, was the solar eclipse a bad siman, like the Mar in Sukkah, if it's a natural occurrence? So anyway, according to this, anything that's just naturally happening, you can't say Hatova Meitiv or Baruch Dan Emes. All right, we're going to stop there. Let's look at question TA 20. Pretty easy question. Madu v'chakiris im oimer echad en yodea edusin betela. Why would it be the edusin betela? So this is TA 20. It's a nice easy question for us. So the reason is because Oimer echad en yodea edusin betela dehavila edus shiyata yachol hazima, and therefore that's the whole answer right there. Question TB 21. Shloish edim ve'oimer echad mehen en yodea be'echad mizayin chakiros b'ma tluya hanidoin im batal edusin olo, which is the same question as question 14. Is TB 21. on Mem Aleph Amud Beis. B'shnayim edim oy b'shleish edim yakum dover. Im makish shleish l'shtayim is what I wrote. V'im avatel es echad me'edim im avatel es kulam orak hu v'yesh oy shtei edim ksher muhayed. Again, it has to do with edus shiato. It's really Italian. Edus shi ate yachol lahazim. Okay, Adka.